But for the most part, Trump cuts the cord. Netanyahu is out accused of manipulation. The U.S. ditches Israel from Saudi nuke talks. Huckabee drops the hammer. We don't need Israel's permission. And Iran denies the London plot, warns of false flags, and points fingers at the shadows. Alliances are cracking. Agendas are colliding. Welcome to the new Middle East. Unpredictable, unfiltered, and on the edge in a dramatic shift. Reports suggest that U.S. President Donald Trump has severed all communication with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, citing concerns over manipulation by Israeli officials. The decision follows reports from Israeli Army radio correspondent Yanis Cousin, who revealed that close associates informed Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer that Netanyahu was attempting to influence Trump unduly. A senior Israeli official says in this context, "It didn't help that Dermer talked to senior Republicans in his usual arrogance about what Trump must do." Trump's entourage told him that Netanyahu was manipulating him, and there's nothing Trump hates more than being portrayed as a sucker and someone being played. So he decided to cut off contact. That may change, but that's the situation for now. Sources close to Trump have expressed frustration with Netanyahu's failure to present a clear strategy on critical issues such as Iran's nuclear program, the situation in Gaza, and the activities of Yemen's Ansarullah movement. According to the Islamic Republic News Agency report, an Israeli official noted that Dum's recent interactions with top Republican figures were perceived as arrogant and unhelpful, further straining relations. The official emphasized that Netanyahu's actions gave the impression of manipulating the U.S. president, a move Trump finds intolerable. This development comes amid ongoing indirect talks between the U.S. and Iran concerning Tehran's nuclear ambitions. Iran has condemned attempts by external parties, particularly Netanyahu, to undermine these negotiations. The breakdown in U.S.-Israel relations raises questions about the future of Middle East diplomacy and the strategic alignment between the two nations. In a pointed interview aired by Channel 12 News, U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee delivered a stark warning regarding the Iran-backed Houthi rebels' ongoing attacks on Israel. Huckabee emphasized that the United States' response to these assaults hinges on whether American citizens are harmed. He stated that the U.S. is not required to seek permission from Israel to take action against the Houthis. The United States isn't required to get permission from Israel to make some type of arrangement that would get the Houthis from firing on our ships. Here's what I can tell you, because I had a conversation with both the president and the vice president last night. There's 700,000 Americans living in Israel. If the Houthis want to continue doing things to Israel and they hurt an American, then it becomes our business. This declaration follows a recent missile strike by the Houthis on Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion airport, which resulted in 8 injuries and disrupted international flights. Despite a bilateral ceasefire agreement between the U.S. and the Houthis announced by President Trump on May 6, the rebel group has pledged to continue its attacks on Israel. Huckabee's comments reflect a broader shift in U.S. policy, indicating a willingness to act independently to protect American interests, even if such actions diverge from Israeli preferences. The ambassador's remarks also highlight the complex dynamics of the U.S.-Israel relationship, particularly in the context of regional security threats as tensions escalate. Huckabee's statement clearly indicates that the U.S. will prioritize the safety of its citizens and interests, potentially leading to actions that may not align with Israeli strategies in another significant policy shift. President Donald Trump has removed the requirement for Saudi Arabia to normalize relations with Israel as a condition for advancing civil nuclear cooperation talks, according to a Reuters report. This move marks a departure from the approach under former President Joe Biden, where nuclear discussions were closely tied to broader normalization efforts and a potential defense treaty with Riyadh, according to a Times of Israel report. Saudi Arabia had consistently maintained that any recognition of Israel would necessitate a viable path to a Palestinian state, a stance that complicated progress on the nuclear front. The recent decoupling of these issues suggests a recalibration of a strategy, potentially paving the way for renewed nuclear cooperation without the immediate need for Israeli diplomatic engagement. Despite this development, challenges remained at a key sticking point is the U.S. Atomic Energy Act. Section 123, which imposes non-proliferation criteria, including restrictions on uranium enrichment. Saudi Arabia has expressed a desire to enrich uranium domestically, raising concerns about compliance with these provisions. Negotiations are ongoing to address these issues and move towards a potential agreement. President Trump's upcoming visit to Riyadh, likely on May 13th, is expected to discuss these matters further to strengthen bilateral relations and advance shared interests in the region. Meanwhile, former Israeli ambassador to the United States Mike Herzog has publicly criticized Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for missing key opportunities to secure normalization with Saudi Arabia. Herzog highlighted that recent developments, including the U.S. dropping the requirement for Saudi recognition of Israel in nuclear talks, underscore the potential for such a deal. He expressed concern that Israel's ongoing military operations in Gaza are distancing the possibility of normalization further since Israel is planning to widen the operation in Gaza. Normalization is getting farther away. I think Israel should make normalization a very high priority. I don't think Netanyahu doesn't want it, but he probably isn't willing to pay the price. I think it's a missed opportunity, Iran's foreign minister said. Abbas Iraqi has firmly rejected media reports suggesting Iranian nationals were involved in a plot to target the Israeli embassy in London. In a statement, Onyx Arachi described the allegations as baseless and emphasized that Iran had not been informed of any such claims through official diplomatic channels. He further criticized the UK's lack of engagement suggests that the absence of communication raised suspicions about the credibility of the accusations, that we are seeing stories in the media that Iranian nationals are allegedly involved in a supposed plot to target the Israeli embassy in London. Iran, in no uncertain terms, categorically rejects any involvement in such actions and confirms that we have not been informed of any allegations via proper diplomatic channels. Iran has urged the UK to engage so that we may assist any probe into credible allegations. Timing and lack of engagement suggest that something is amiss. There is a history of third parties bent on derailing diplomacy and provoking escalation, resorting to desperate measures, including false flag operations. Iran stands ready to engage to shed light on what has truly transpired. And we reiterate that UK authorities should afford our citizens due process. Notably, the Iranian government has expressed its willingness to cooperate with UK authorities to investigate any credible allegations, urging transparency and due process. Iraqi also cautioned against the possibility of third parties attempting to derail diplomatic efforts through false flag operations. This development comes amid heightened tensions in the region and ongoing negotiations between Iran and the United States on Tehran's nuclear program.